Welcome to the Sheila Mack Show, reality at its finest. Here we have real people sharing real stories and actionable steps to help you reinvent, rebuild, and reboot your business and personal life on your terms. I'm your host, Sheila Mack, and today we have special guest, Angel RIBO. Angel is known as the CEO confidant, and he is an influencer, LinkedIn strategist, international TV host, public speaker, CEO consultant, board member, and philanthropist. Over the last 21 years, Angel has helped more than 1,500 CEOs in 33 different countries to accelerate the growth of their business. He was born in Barcelona, and he has lived in 8 countries and speaks 5 languages. Established entrepreneurs and corporate CEOs hire Angel to bridge the gap globally for expansion and exposure to grow their business. Angel sits on the board of the Evolutionary Business Council, an organization with more than 350 global transformational leaders with a combined reach of well over 600 million people. Angel is based in Texas, and in early 2017, he launched his international foundation, Wisdom for Kids, and he has helped more than 1,000 underprivileged kids in Latin America become entrepreneurs using their local resources. I love that, Angel. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. And, it's all about, as you mentioned in the introduction, it's all about, choosing the reality that you want to create, right? And living it to the fullest. So thank you for such a warm introduction.
Yes, thank you for being here. And I like to start off, this show actually came about based on my new best-selling book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula that goes from rock bottom back into action in any situation. I wrote it right before our pandemic. No crystal ball.
Okay.
But it was really right on point. So one of the questions I like to ask guests is, do you have a time in your business or personal life where you experienced a difficult situation? And if so, how did you get back on track?
Well, I guess that I've had several in corporate America, and I have several as an entrepreneur. In 2016, I decided to start my own journey. But probably when I was in corporate, one of the most difficult moments in my life was when actually I had to say enough is enough. And I had to say, I'm not going to keep on doing those things that I find they are not, ethical. So that was really, really, really important.
Okay. 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 That's really weird. Let's see. I don't get it. My goodness. There you go. Hi, Angel. Okay. Yes. So we were talking, and then all of a sudden, I think it was a wire on my end. I'm believing I got it back working. That was so interesting.
So at the same time that happened,
Yes.
for some reason, I'm not going to say the brand, but an update kicked into my machine and it restarted the whole thing. So anyway,
good.
I apologize to you and to the audience, obviously. Thank you.
Okay, yes, we'll just keep going because
Of course. Thank you.
We'll be fine.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right. So you were sharing about your story about how you overcame some obstacles in your life. So maybe just go back.
Yes, exactly. So exactly. You asked me about, obstacles, and I told you that I have had, many obstacles, both on my career, corporate career, and my, entrepreneur life. And I pointed out one which was very painful, because I still remember, when you attach emotions to experiences. I remember that I had to actually make the tough decision to leave a large company, very nice, very good, but I had to leave it because I said enough is enough. There were many things going on in there that I wasn't in agreement with, and I said, I cannot keep on doing these things that for me are not ethically, adequate or correct, right? Mm-hmm. So and that put me actually on a bad spot. I remember not having taken before the financial precautions I had to take. And then, I really started like, okay, what am I going to do? And it took to me almost a year and a half to find another job. I've never thought at that time of becoming an entrepreneur. Meanwhile, I have to say, though, I started a kind of a advisory work with some large corporations locally. At that time, I was living in Mexico, and it went pretty well. I mean, I could make some money to make the ends meet. But it was really tough. I mean, the thing is, as you know, when you are in this kind of cycle, this loop in which you think, oh my God, I'm gonna run out of money. How am I gonna pay my bill? How am I gonna pay my rent? I was living in a very wealthy area in Mexico City at that time. I mean, I was paying well over $2,000 for my rent at that time already. I'm talking about the early 2000s. Oh my God, that was really painful. But at the end of the day, trusting has always been one of the most difficult things to do in my life, but also rewarding. Trusting.
Yes. Wow. So then how did you get back on track?
Yeah. So basically, I started this advisory work, and I started to talk with a couple of friends and say, hey, let's do that. And they say, are you sure you want to do that? And actually, I started to do something that I had learned in Europe while I was in Europe. And that was actually help large corporations to get tax breaks for their investments in product development and product design, in research and development in general. And that's very specialized, but I actually got them a lot of tax breaks. And it was like actually the tax authority in Mexico at that time had just started a program to do that. And there was nobody doing that. So I was able to help large corporations, telecom, oil and gas, and utilities to have some nice tax breaks. And then when I was being already successful with that after a year, I entered a selection process, a recruitment process for a corporation that, funny enough, it was a competitor of my former employer. And I got employed, and it was a blessing because I really, really loved that job, and I learned so much. And I have to say, of those 1,500 CEOs I helped in my life, most of them were through the work I did, starting in probably like 2004, 2005. So yeah, but again, all the time you see there's this massive breakdown or failure, and then along with it comes a blessing.
Yes.
It's always like that. But as human beings, we tend to forget this. Sheila, it's so amazing. And that's why it's tough to allow ourselves to trust, right? We have to trust. I mean, if you do good to the world and you help a lot of people and you're always positive, and it's like today, right? I mean, you, Sheila, you're trying to help as many people as possible. You're trying to really, put a story in front of your audience that is going to tell them something. And you're probably, with every single show that you do, probably you're helping people in ways that you cannot even imagine, right? And I love to do this. I love to share, my failures, and I love to share my story if it can help anybody else,
Yes, definitely. That's so important. And that is something that happens when we experience a tough situation where we do that spiral because we're in survival. And the moment we step out of that and we have that surrender to something beyond us as a guiding force, and we just keep doing the next right action, beautiful things show up. In fact, usually even better than we imagined. So for me, I lost my home and my cat and my car during the California fire in 2017. That's why.
Oh my God.
And I thought, oh my, I've been demoted big time from a beautiful home and all these nice things. And so that was such an interesting time. And I used that positive situation to change my state. And I decided I'm going to try all these things that I've attempted. And I actually was able to get back on track within a month. So that's really interesting. And this is interesting. We have lost Angel again, and hopefully he will be back. So let's see. Wow. All right. So at any rate, let's see what else Angel was talking about. He talked about moving around from different countries and helping people along the way. And that's something that really makes a difference when we show up and help people. That's like in my book, all you're doing, it's who you're being. That was my mantra. And all I'm doing, it's who I'm being. It's how I show up with my family and friends when I walk my dog. dog, when I'm cleaning my house, it doesn't matter where I live. It's how I'm living, how I'm being, the energy I put into a place that's going to make all the difference. And so that's really important to remember. And it's hard to remember when you're in a situation where you've kind of been demoted really fast due to some kind of situation or another. And so all right, we're going to add Rubio back. So we were talking about, rebooting and rebuilding, getting back on track. And yes, and so look, Angel had a reboot. He had to reboot his computer system,
Well,
and I had to do mine. So
exactly, we're talking about your house being burned down and
yes,
losing even a cat that you definitely loved a lot.
yeah.
And I think one of the things, and maybe I would like to pass. I mean, this is happening for a reason today, and I think that this is the reason why this is happening, is that we typically associate the wrong ideas to things that happen to us. We don't really wait. We don't really like analyze what's happening in our lives, what we see, what happens to us, and what's the meaning behind it. I strongly believe, we're talking about angels. Very often I just make jokes about my own name because people don't know if to pronounce it in Spanish or in English. And I always say angel from heaven. I think that we should listen to our angels. I think that our angels are talking to us all the time. And again, I'm a very grounded person, so that but I think that rebooting is not that bad. Reinventing is not that bad. I remember last year I was talking to several groups of entrepreneurs here in the Dallas area, and we were talking about pivoting in times of crisis,
Right.
because it's necessary to pivot very often. And you don't necessarily need a crisis to pivot, right? But
Right.
crisis say, okay, so this has happened for a reason. I have
Exactly.
no idea why your house was burned down, right? But we still have to keep on going, keep on making progress. I'm definitely, how many times have you thought that was a real blessing so that you could reinvent yourself and you could do things that you would probably have never done had you
Oh,
continued the life the same
oh,
way you?
yes, so much. And I was so guided by angels and guarded by truth that night. This was the first night I was to sleep in the home. I spent a month designing it. My daughter was going to move in a few days later and start college in the area there. And I lost the home, but I had all these detours. I ended up with a lady that wanted to talk at Starbucks until 10:30 at night. And I was like, okay, she's a friend and a client, and I want to go home and go to bed. I'm tired. And I've got a 45-minute drive from where I was to get to my new house. And then another detour, I had a vacation rental property, and somebody flew in and she said, there's so much wind, it's freezing, and the heater doesn't work. Well, she had taken some kind of medication for flying. And so she was kind of under the influence. And when I got there, all the windows were open. And I was like, well, maybe it's because the windows are open, dear. And I thought, and when I was going back to my car from talking to this lady, it's okay, don't worry. Yeah, it was another 30 minutes off my day. And I said, wait, I am protected. Whenever we have a reroute, when things keep showing up, it's a protection, it's a guidance to something. And so I'm going to go with knowing that I am surrendering to whatever that is. And as I drove home, I saw these huge fires, and I knew when I got to my new home, the whole area was, maybe we're going to evacuate in 20 minutes. I said, no, everybody, please evacuate now, because the fire is miles and the wind was so strong. I said, we have no chance. Get everything you can, get your children, your pets, everything you can out. Unfortunately, my cat got away, so we lost her, but we got everything we could out, and we weren't able to get both cars. So it was a difficult situation. And one of those things where, had it been that those other people didn't detain me, I would have lost even more. I was able to get some photos and some important things. So it does make a big difference for sure. And yes, so Angel, I think we've lost you again. Right. Yes, so Angel is working with a lot of CEOs, and that's something in business when you're switching businesses or becoming an entrepreneur. So he went from working for a company to becoming an entrepreneur. And I kind of did things backwards in my life. really. I worked for JPL for a number of years when I was 18 years old on. And then by the time I was 23, I started these gift stores. And that was running a business and being an entrepreneur for the first time. It was such a learning curve. Some of the things that I had to learn were, I had to learn, first of all about running a store, running a business, taxes. Angel talked about how he was helping with taxes. There's sales tax, there's licensing and things. And so when I first started, I was doing everything myself. And this was a long time ago, since I have young adult children that are now in college and above. So when I was 23 opening these stores, my bill was $5,000 a month for this rent. And I had negotiated 6 months free rent, thinking 6 months is like forever. When you're young, 6 months is forever. And when I started having to pay that rent, I decided from now on, I'm going to buy my buildings. And so that's how I started to purchase property, and later learned I don't even have to run the business. The property will give you passive cash flow. And so that was something beautiful that I was able to enjoy, was the passive cash flow from investing. And, this young kid, I started out investing really young. At 19, I already had a child and I needed a place to stay. So I managed to get a foreclosed property with money I had saved because I was working and for forever. And I actually got into this little, I did have a big mortgage, and I got into the little back unit and rented out these 3 little townhomes. It was a triplex in Montrose, California. And with that, I was able to actually house hack before that was a term. And that gave me the income I needed to actually then pay that place off. And as I was working full time, continuing my education at the same time and everything, by the time I invested in my store, I actually had some seed money to start. And of course, I thought 6 months was a very long time, which it wasn't. And so that property investing or some kind of investing other than your job is always good. Having multiple streams of income, creating income from different ways is so important. Now, let's see. We have lost Angel. I'm going to see. Add to stream. Okay, Angel is back. Your mic is off. So we will keep going now.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes. All right. So
okay, I'm speechless, but anyway, thank you again for your patience.
Telling stories.
that's never happened to me before, but
yes, it is there's a reason for everything. Yes. So let me ask you if you could share about that transition you had and any tips you have for entrepreneurs that are new, doing a side gig or trying to start this side company now with all our economic changes. Do you have any tips since you made that?
Absolutely. There's always 4 pillars that I suggest every single entrepreneur to start thinking about when they're, starting to have in their mind those thoughts of, maybe I could do something better. Maybe I could do something better. Because as you very well know, more than 70% of the U.S. workforce, if they don't really like what they're doing. So there's 4 things. Number 1, start thinking about the things that you really like to do. Things that that you really have passion. Things that when you are doing them, time flies. Number 2, what are those things that other people, not yourself, other people tell you all the time? Oh, you're so good at that. So good at that. And let me tell you something. Don't be afraid if those things are, let's say, far away from what you're doing today as far as work goes. Okay, so it can be anything. And again, we are very, very often afraid of doing things which are far away from the things that we have typically done in different workplaces, right? But remember, there's always going to be for you clients out there that only will resonate with you and with your message. And I'm already talking about step number 3, which is there a market for you? If I had to tell you, the first thing I would do, even if after doing those 2 things of thinking about your passions and thinking about what others tell you that you're an expert on, is the third thing is go and start talking to anybody around you and tell them, hey, I would like to do that. What do you think?
What do you think of that product? Do you think of that service? Would you buy it? Would you use it? Why yes? Why not? How would you make it available to the public? What would you need to make a decision to buy it? All these kind of things. And again, we have to talk to our relatives, to friends, to business partners, to colleagues that we really trust and that we can talk to, former colleagues, members of the community, neighbors. Honestly, talk to 20, 30 people and ask them, what do you think of this I would like to do? Okay, and the last thing is, okay, so all those things I have told you already. The fourth thing is, would people pay money for this? Would people pay money for this? Yes or no? And again, when you're talking to your, all this, entourage, all this environment of people around you, just ask them, would you pay? How much would you pay for it?
Mm-hmm.
If you have already thought about all those four things, then start small. Baby steps. Start this rebooting little by little. It doesn't, you don't have to jump off a plane, okay? You are not on a pirate ship and they're gonna throw you to the sharks. No. Just baby steps, and make yourself like goals, okay? Mm-hmm. Put yourselves goals ahead of you. So let's say every week from now on, I'm gonna use 1 hour a week to do this. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly you will start liking it, and maybe next week it's gonna be, or the next 4 weeks, it's gonna be 2 hours a week, and then 3 hours a week. Again, baby steps that build up that trust, because you need to build trust, okay? Yeah. And if I had to tell you one thing that I would try to do on those 1 hour a week or 2 hours a week, besides all those four things I've already told you, is try to put yourself outside of your comfort zone with small little things. Let me tell you one thing I did myself when I started my corporate career, and I was kind of forced, but I also accepted the challenge. So I was in Europe, I was in the UK, although I'm from Spain, and my boss came to me and said, hey, Angel, you are right now covering those accounts, you're an inside salesperson, you're covering those accounts in those countries because you speak French, English, and Spanish. I know that you don't speak that much of German or any of these Nordic countries' languages. Would you be open to start calling to those accounts even if you don't speak the language? So imagine, Sheila, calling to a German guy, trying to understand what their challenges were, and that person would barely speak English, and I would definitely not speak German. And it's not like today. In year 2000, let me tell you, or on the 90s, that was in the 90s, I didn't have to translate, the translator from Google. Right. I didn't have that. I had a small, dictionary with me. That's the only thing I had, right? And I started, and guess what? My goal in every single conversation was to start developing a relationship with that person. So he would think, who's this crazy guy calling me from the UK, speaking some sort of basic German to me? And we were always, honestly, 90% of the time, we were able to have some sort of conversation. And they would always remember me. Who's this crazy guy that calls me, speaking in English and in German, and we barely understand each other. But I would always try to get a next step, right? So can I send you this flyer? Can I send you this white paper? Can I send you this piece of information that might be able to help you, right? And little by little, I was building relationships. Yeah. And I remember eventually, actually, I think it was with Austria. It was with an Austrian company. I was able to actually identify a very nice opportunity that eventually the field reps closed through my phone calls. So that was like the reward, one of the rewards. But I was really outside the comfort zone. And that to tell you, one of the most important 2 words for every single entrepreneur out there is why not? Yeah. Why not? Why not? Okay. So why not doing something? Why not doing this? Why not doing that? Right? Obviously, because it's uncomfortable. But if you start being in that place very often, then you will start enjoying it. You will start being comfortable being uncomfortable. And I'm sure you've perceived that and you felt that yourself, Sheila.
Oh, yes. Yes, so interesting. It does. There's this guiding force that brings you to what you're good at. And for me, I took this first job at JPL NASA programming because my family said, hey, you need to make money. You need to go into computers. Well, I had the carpal tunnel, I had pain, I didn't like sitting, I had to dress like an old lady at 18 years old to fit in. And the next thing you know, they had me leading the safety training classes and
Wow.
working with people. And they said, well, you make the people laugh and you're having fun and nobody falls asleep and they all get their certification. And so it was already guiding me. And then I don't know, I got into politics in a weird way. I literally had friends running for political office and I was helping them as a friend. And they said, we have to get rid of this manager isn't helping us. And will you manage the campaign? And I ended up doing a lot of nonpartisan campaigns, primarily for equal education for all in the United States. And they asked me, what's your party? And I said, Free Spirit. I mean, like, I knew nothing of politics. People. I love people. I love to lead and work with people, teamwork, building. And so that was what I was best at. And things just kept guiding me that way. So that's what I do now. This is fun for me. How could I not do what I love? But even my body physically hurt doing a job. Yes, it was hard for me to do. And I was doing it for the money. The money never will pay the bills when you're working for the money. Never.
I agree.
Yes.
That's a very strong statement, but so true.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Now, let me know about Angel as a young boy. What did you have? What was your motivation? What did you want to do when you grew up? What was your thoughts on this? How did this all?
It's funny because I really didn't know. I mean, I was a very, believe it or not, I was a very shy, timid kind of kid. I wouldn't open my mouth if it wasn't necessary. My mom and dad were very close to themselves, I would say. So my dad was this business person. So he was all the time, all over the place with so many companies, so many, manufacturing plants and things and traveling all the time. But when he was outside his work, he wouldn't want to go out again. He wanted to be with the family, himself, all kind of closed. So we didn't really go so much to visit other people. So I grew up like this, very, very shy. But also, I always wanted to be with my father. I always wanted to learn what he was doing. I always wanted to go with him all over the place. And I remember being frustrated when my father would tell me, no, you cannot come with me this time. No, you cannot come with me this time. I would go, even every single weekend when he would go to check on a specific plant or something, I would go with him just to see what he was doing. And during the summer, I remember one of my first jobs ever. One of them, he was the CEO for a large food compound of companies in Spain. And one of the plants they had was a fish farm. I remember making my first money boxing rainbow trouts. Boxing rainbow trouts in those, this white kind of cork. I don't know how to name it. This artificial that they put the fish, and then they put the eyes on top to keep it cold while they take it from the place where the farm was, the fish was farmed to sell it to the wholesalers and maybe other stores. So I was actually literally going with my father, driving 1 hour and a half, spending 4 or 5 hours there just boxing trout. He would pay me per box. It was 22, 23 trouts per box. And he would pay me 5 cents per box. 5 cents per box. And that was the 80s. And I so loved it. Then my second job with him it was funny because they bought their first computer. It was an Apple IIe. And Apple computers were not really present in Spain, and they said, hey, Angel, would you code some inventory software so we could try to have the inventory of them? And it goes on and on. So that was the little Angel when I was a kid, Sheila.
Wow. So you were really guided. So parents listening in right now, a lot of us as parents have to have our children home. And you think, oh, this is such a difficult thing. How do I work and have my children here? And yet it is truly the best gift you can give your children for learning about the real world, for seeing what does mom and dad do? They want to know. They want to be involved in a little way, in something fun and whatever it is. But to understand that is magical. I grew up at 3 years old. My grandparents took me to the factory. They did swimsuits, bras. So I've got the bra on my book cover.
Good.
And they made Catalina Sportswear, White Stag, El Capitan. And so they manufactured for 200 employees. And I went to work every day and saw how they did business. And they put me in the little contest, the beauty contest, to sell candies. 3 years old, I'm going up and down the aisles with 200 employees, and they all bought from the granddaughter. I didn't know that. I just thought I was a good salesperson. So I guess I was just always, and I thought, oh, they're dragging me around again, learning about these things. I didn't know I was learning.
Yeah,
I was.
You were.
You do. So children listen. They learn by watching, not what we tell them, not in a book, but what we do.
Well, now it's not the case, but very very often I have one of my kids. He's 12. He's 11 years old. He's 12 years old. He's gonna be 13. Listen to my podcast interviews very often, and even to business calls. I want him to listen, and sometimes also with the excuse that I want you to correct this text for me. I have him look at my business proposals to my clients.
Yes,
literally. So I really want him to be involved with all the activities. And also when I go to Latin America, I've taken him to my Wisdom for Kids workshops. I have taken him to teach entrepreneurship to the kids in Latin America, underprivileged kids.
Wow.
Absolutely. I want my kids to really know not only what I'm doing, but also to be able to understand what the world is about. You know, they don't live in a bubble. They have to understand things that happen in the world. And you know, and this big word, Sheila, I'm sure that you resonate with this. If I had to maybe recommend one word to the 7.8 billion people in the world right now, that word would be discernment. Discernment.
Oh, yes.
The ability as human beings to be able to differentiate what is real and what is not. Discernment. And I don't think that the school system is in general is doing a good job there, because we are being taught a lot of lessons. And you just mentioned it, equal education. Oh my God!
Right.
When you mentioned education, I started to have chills, Sheila.
Yeah.
You know how important is for the educational system to be able to strengthen, to empower every single kid with their own abilities, with their own talents, with their own gifts. And not try to level up everybody. It's insane.
Exactly.
I mean, I understand that in our case, the state of Texas needs to have all those tests done every single year, and they have 3-4 tests every single year. I understand that, but hey, why are you trying to measure everybody? Someone might be, having really underperforming according to the state levels, but probably that person has a completely different talent and gift that cannot be measured in terms of those tests that are being used to measure their performance.
Oh, yeah.
So, oh my God, it's discernment, guys. Discernment. Question every single thing that you have been habituated to do and to think about.
Right.
With all due respect, Sheila, okay? With all due respect.
So true. Oh my gosh. I've raised 6 children. I have 3 that I adopted, 3 of my own. This big family, they're all grown now. And I did teach them discernment. It was a huge thing. And of course, as soon as they became teens, they questioned me. And I was like, wait, no. Question everything else. But I wanted them to be able to really have that discernment, what whoever's speaking, whatever's going on, to be able to put it through their own value system and make sure, cross-check facts and make sure what they're listening to is really on point for their values. And yes, it's so important. And I remember I did a documentary. I was in a documentary about this equal education for all. And in the documentary, it was different sides of this perspective of education. And my point that really struck home for everybody was, I said, in these children, there's a child that we're denying the education because of the zip code, because they're not in a rich area, whatever it is. They don't have the education they need, and that child will grow up and could have been the doctor that will one day save your life, but you denied him. So what are we denying? All of humanity. When we deny a child education, we're denying all of humanity. And it really made a difference, and it struck a chord. And I believe it's true, especially now with all these things. We need to have all types of talent, and education is the drawing out of the genius that's already within. So
Totally.
there's different talents that people have. And
Absolutely.
so it's so important. And when I mentioned my gift stores, when I was 23, I opened. One of the things I did was I created open source learning. I had over 200 children. They were actually young adults, and they were emancipating from foster care.
Okay.
At-risk youth, and the government helped me with this program. So it was a funded program. I had to show videos and training with the camcorder that's 20 pounds. Most of these young adults grew up to have their own businesses. They learned every aspect of running a gift store, and they learned by doing. And then they had the opportunity that nobody wanted to hire them because they were afraid, oh, they're going to steal. None of these kids ever stole a penny from me. They were like family. We sort of, they were the extra kids I adopted. And still today, all these years later, they send me a birthday card. They call me. We check on each other. I hear about their children. And so and my business was so successful. I had 5 stores and bought the other properties. Why? It wasn't about selling things to people. It was community, giving back. And the heart was those kids. So it really made a difference. Now, I'd love to hear all about your program, Helping Children, and what you do with that.
Absolutely. So basically, I had a spiritual experience in 2015 that allowed me to see why I had been connecting, or why I had been working and serving these C-level executives in many different countries in the world, in 33 countries. And at the same time, when I lived in Latin America, I was all the time seeing all that poverty. All these kids that were there saying, Senor, we would like to, we would like to sell this to you. We would like to do this kind of things. When I was going to visit the CEOs to specific places, plants, manufacturing plants, the kids would come to me, hey, Senor, can we keep your car safe? Can we keep your, can we wash your car while you are inside that plant? And it was very clear to me that my main purpose was to actually bring connection to the unconnected. And probably thanks to that, my declaration, my mission is, I consider myself an unstoppable divine force that brings connection to the unconnected by uplifting their energy and empowering their awareness. That's my mission. That's what I do. And I think actually that most of us entrepreneurs, we do the same thing. We always bridge a gap to connect people that are not connected. And that's what I do in Latin America. Basically, we connect with or we find communities of underprivileged kids, which is unfortunately very easy. In Latin America alone, there are 81 million kids living in poverty. 81 million kids, okay? So it's almost 3 times Texas. So just to put this in perspective, and about the population. So we go to communities and we talk to the community leaders. And what we do is we have 3 different age groups, and we basically have workshops, and we teach those kids entrepreneurship. And we do it in a very specific way, very special way. Since the very beginning, we said, okay, so if we're going to do specific actions, initiatives in several places, how can we make sure that since the very beginning, what we do stays with them?
Yes.
So our workshop is not like a whiteboard or a blackboard kind of thing where we teach things. No. It's all about the multisensorial experience. So we dance, we jump, we play, we sing, we do all sorts of things. So the kids are completely engaged with us for 2 hours. And we do something, so it's all about energy work. It's really energy work. We tell stories, we do quizzes, we ask it. Obviously, we are talking all the time. We're speaking to each other all the time and asking questions. But the cherry on the cake is, on top of the cake, is the meditation. There's a 20-minute meditation. And you would never say this, but kids are natural at meditating. Natural, much more than us. Much more than us. So I remember the first time, I think we had 15 kids in a room, and we wanted, the first time that we were piloting this, we were proof testing this, we said, okay, so let's do it. Just do it, right? We had obviously we had music, we had affirmations, we had everything. It's a guided meditation.
Right.
Let's do it. And we started to give instructions to the kids. You have to be, for everybody who has been, involved in education, that you have to be extremely, assertive, right? So we gave the instructions. The kids followed the instructions flawlessly, Sheila, flawlessly. And then we started with the music. The music is super powerful, from a very amazing guy in Northern California that shared the rights, or gave us the rights for free to use that music, his music. And then it's the meditation, it's the affirmations, and it's affirmations about their self-esteem. It's affirmations about what they can become, who they can become, what is good for them, how can they thrive in their lives, all positive. It took to us 2 years to design the whole really literally the whole workshop. Why? Because we wanted to make sure that it was going to be really impactful. And we would leave that, we leave booklets with the kids as an anchor of that experience. So this is really an experience for those kids to start an entrepreneurial journey. So that's basically the starting point for us as people teaching entrepreneurship in Latin America, Sheila.
Nice. Now, how old are these children, and how long do you work with them?
Yes, we basically start at 6-7 years old. We have 3 age groups, and then it's up to our local volunteers to follow through. So they guide them and their parents. After the initial workshop, what we do is we identify the kids that we think are more prepared and more willing to do this.
Yeah.
Right? Willing and able. And then we start talking to their parents or their tutors, because very often those kids come, as you know, from unstructured families, very often. So we make sure that our volunteers engage with those families and start talking with them. Hey, we would like, we think that your kid could be a great entrepreneur. We start, working with them. And this can really, take as long as it's necessary. We started, we tested everything. We piloted everything in 2017. We started, mid 2018, full throttle, let's say. And unfortunately, as you know, in early 2020, we had to stop for obvious reasons. And we are eager to go back. As you know, every single country, every single community has their own restrictions. So we can't wait to go back.
Yes. Oh, that's so important. On
a
global basis, to be able to have these educations for all, and especially those who need it the most, who
Absolutely.
don't have support. And then the children are actually helping their families at some point, and that's incredible. It really makes a difference.
Exactly. And remember also that in those communities, very often the kids are in a very early age already working. So if the parents or the tutors go to the fields, right, to work, very often they take the kids along with them, and and that's sad. It's sad to see how those kids, instead of going to school to learn something, right?
Oh yeah.
They have to spend time in the fields. And again, we never take a judgmental position. Okay. So we understand that, whatever is in place is in place. We are not there to change the culture. We are there to help them. We are not there to disrupt their community. We are there to help their community. That's what we're there for, to empower them.
Yes, it does. It makes all the difference. I started working a job when I was 10, and I was homeless 10 to 13 and a half, and always had my own job. And this is in the United States. And I actually did travel many times, mostly to Mexico, to see family. And I lived with very well-to-do family in Guadalajara. And then I had other relatives in Mexico City with, 15 kids that didn't have plumbing.
There you go.
It all worked. And they were like, no, you have to stay there for a summer. And I'm like, I don't want to stay there. And there's no bathroom. This is important. but it was a learning experience that connected me in such a different way. And I did learn Spanish because that nobody spoke English except for the nuns. And they would send me to the church to talk to the nuns, and I had a dictionary because it was, I was young. They didn't have the computers and such. And so it was a connection and an experience. And then even in Sonoma, I had another group that I stayed with for a short time while I was homeless that was, I guess, extended family somehow. And the parents worked at a chicken factory and had 8 kids. And the 16-year-old had to quit going to school to take care of all the babies while the parents worked. And I was there staying in a little room, and they gave me the summer to stay with them, and my job was to help get the house in order, help with the children, and I taught them how to plant, gardens and get their own food, and we would have to go pick blackberries from the railroad. I mean, it was not the Sonoma today. It was very poor. I think somebody came and bought out the whole area, and I lost track of them. But it was such a difference how you have to stop going to school to take care of the baby so we all can eat. That's how bad it was. And so that happens everywhere. And it was just such a different experience. And I know the older one, they did let her work. She was older than the 16-year-old, and she went and worked because she earned so much for the home. So that's the way it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, different.
Yeah. We tend to think that, everything is like the reality that we live in, but it's not true. Very often as I work with so many executives, very often I get messages on LinkedIn in which parents tell me, hey, do you take families to where you go so that our kids could see the reality of Latin America and of those places that you go to? And it's true. I mean, the world has so many different levels of poverty and wealth and progress and underdeveloped kids and areas. That's why traveling is so important. If you can ever do voluntary work outside the US or even in the US to the neighborhoods that nobody wants to go, please do it. You will never believe what you see there.
Yes.
And very often, like 5-10 minutes away from where you live, there can be people really struggling and having a hard time just to make the ends meet.
Yes. And I think there's something to everybody that's a parent or a grandparent, that if you overspoil, maybe you are so blessed and you had to struggle. But if you give so much and you have entitled children, that's going to mess them up. That will hurt them more than if you had to send them to work. That will just destroy them. And it's the worst thing to do. There's something about self-confidence that comes in when I helped with the chores at the house, or I helped mom do this or dad do that or whatever, where I did my homework myself and I got a F or a D. Well, guess what? That's okay, because you did it and you learned the consequences. The consequences when you're 5 or 8, maybe 10, those are little consequences. A bad grade, you have to go sit in the corner, whatever. But the consequences when we grow up, that's some serious consequences. So let them experience that. Go and help in the community. Because we had fosters in our home that we adopted 3, and then I also always mentored at the girls' homes. My children always learned about working with different cultures, people, children, the difference about what goes on this planet. And I mean, I only have 1 girl, 5 boys, 1 girl. And my daughter is actually a counselor at a girls' home for pregnant teenage moms. And she's psychology, and she's already there working with these kids. And they said, oh, you're so young. I don't know. Most people only last a few months. Almost 4 years she's been there. And she's very good with the kids because she gets it.
Of course.
And she can somehow, she looks so young. She looks like one of the girls. At 25, she looks 16 sometimes, but she can really, do what she needs to do. So it's something about that. And that's her career and passion, is to help these people, to help mostly young adults. That's her choice, is to help the younger kids get through things. And you would believe some of the kids that were the most privileged, let's say, they have the most problems.
Oh, yeah.
So, the drugs, alcohol situations, cutting, all these things happen, and it doesn't matter about economics, what you have or have not. It's a lot of times is presence. Parents, give your gift of presence to your children. The gift of time is going to make all the difference in how your kids turn out.
Absolutely.
It's priceless. You say no to things that don't matter. Don't go out with the friends. Don't go do something for just do something together. Even if it's bringing them along to a work project that you can share with them, because that will give them that gift.
I agree.
Really
Totally.
that.
Absolutely.
Yes. Now, Angel, how do people help out with your program or get involved?
Yes. If you go to wisdomforkids.today, you will be able to actually sign up to the program. So that's very easy. You can always write to me. My email address is very easy. It's Angel, ANGEL, @angelrebo.com. Rebo is my last name. It's 4 letters, RIB as in boy, O. So Angel @angelrebo.com. You can send me an email there, and it will be a pleasure to respond to you. My team or myself will always respond to you, and it will be a pleasure to have you help our kids in Latin America.
Yes. Now, if you could go back in time, this is something I ask my guests. If you could go back in time, what advice would you give your younger self?
To take more risks.
To
take more risks.
Nice.
Definitely.
Yes.
To take more risks, because there's this thing that I don't know. I mean, since I was a kid, I knew that I had been born to do great things in this world. I just had something but I was raised with a lot of fear. And that's why I wasn't really self-confident. I mean, I went to college and I built my confidence through college, honestly, because I had to be by myself outside. It was like, 1 hour away from home. So, or 1 hour and a half away from home. So I really built my confidence when I was there. So I would take more risks. I mean, obviously legal and healthy, but I would take more risks. Little Angel, take more risks.
Yeah.
Ask, be more curious. Things, possibilities that come to you, take them, try them out, take them, try them out, see what happens, what happens. And because by taking and being curious, taking options and choices, making options and choices, you will eventually see what you like and what you don't like. And I did that very late in my life. So I mean, although I consider myself, I have had lots of blessings in my life, I would still take more risks, definitely.
Yes. And I love you mentioned at the beginning of this show that you were shy and quiet.
I was shy. Oh, yeah.
And now you're the voice to help
oh my God, yeah.
many young children. So now you're making up for that voice. And many times if you're listening in and you have a student, maybe if you're a teacher or if you're a parent or grandparent, you have a child that's really quiet, there's a lot going on in that mind. Just give them as many opportunities to come out of the shell, because then they're going to do great things.
Absolutely.
Sure. Yes. So
let them try, let them fail, let them have success in whatever they do. That's a great, I mean, it's so many gold nuggets we've been able to share throughout this conversation, Sheila. Thank you so much for having me.
Definitely. Well, thank you again. We are coming to the end of our time. So thank you again for being on the show. And could you share your website one more time for people?
Absolutely. Yeah. So if you go to Angel, as I said before, I said my email address, but I'm going to share my website, which is angelrebo.com, or the CEOconfidant.com. It will take you either to my website or to my LinkedIn profile. I work on LinkedIn every single day. I post every single day. So I'm there. So I will be very glad to engage with you. And I know that we've had a lot of technical issues. I apologize to you, Sheila, and to the audience. But, to make up for that, anybody who's going to connect with me after having listened to our conversation today, I'm going to have really special, obviously for free consultation of 30 minutes to help them, grow their business.
Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Angel. And for those tuning in, we'll be back after these messages.